It's now 6 p.m. Chair will call this April the 25th special call board meeting to order. Ms. Brown, has the public been notified?
Yes, sir.
And I do confirm the quorum. Chair will, for a motion, go into the executive session for personnel reason.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we enter executive session for personnel matters.
Second such motion.
Motion made by Mr. Harris. Second by Dr. Harris. Going into executive session. Personnel matters, all in favor, show by the raise of the right hand. That will be 7. Thank you. We'll go into the executive session briefly, and we should be out shortly. Thank you. Wait, no. Here we take motion to exit executive session. No actions were taken.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda. Come out of the resolution. With no changes being made.
Second.
Ms. Green, the motion to exit executive session, no actions were taken. Second by Ms. Sylvia Harrison. All in favor, show by raising the right hand. 7-1. This man keep cutting off everything. I just want to welcome everyone to our special call board meeting. We thank you for supporting our school district, all parents, teachers, pastors, and all that's out there. This time we're gonna have our pledge of allegiance. I'm on sound from our secretary, Mr. Stevens. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. Amen. Thank you. Time to take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Harris made motion to approve the agenda as presented, second by Mrs. Green. All in favor, show by raising the right hand. That would be 7-0. Speakers, do we have any public comment? No. No, sir. Can we get a motion to our board minutes for April 4th, 2023?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from April the 4th, 2023.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Ms. Harrison, second by Dr. Harris, to accept the minutes for April the 14th, excuse me, April the 4th. All in favor, show by raising the right hand. That would be 4-0. Thank you. At this time, the superintendent announcements.
Kevin Miller, members of the board, first of all,
If you get an opportunity, if you get out here on time tonight, please go by Fairfield Central High School. They're having a dance concert tonight. We had orchestra concert on last night. Wow. We had senior night for volleyball last night. I think there is a baseball game, maybe a big break against Great Falls. So we have a lot going on. And so we are in the a lot going on season right now as we head toward the home stretch. So continue to support our students. You know, as we go down, we head into May, we'll start hitting all of our kindergarten graduations and sixth grade promotion ceremonies, and there'll be something going on almost every day. I can tell you that the faculty and staff and students and parents will be very excited to see you. So if you get an opportunity to join any of those activities, please, we would appreciate it. Also, I want to bring your attention, you had an email about our partnership, the Fairfield County School District partnership with the Columbia Urban League for a free program called Plug In. Plug In will provide eligible households in Fairfield County with 3 years of high-speed satellite internet, a laptop, and online resources supporting education, health, and career development at no cost. And so we're very excited about the opportunity to partner with the Columbia Urban League. As we know, dead spots, and I say dead spots, I mean areas where you cannot get broadband access is relatively prevalent in Fairfield County. But this satellite internet is an option to overcome some of those challenges as we wait for fiber to be laid throughout the county. And this is something that will be provided exclusively to the families of Fairfield County school district students. So we're excited about that. There will be an informational session at Fairfield Middle School on Thursday, May 4th. So you can learn all you need to know about the particulars of this initiative. As I said earlier, in order to qualify, you have to be Medicaid or SNAP eligible. Okay, so students have to be Medicaid or SNAP eligible to qualify for the free internet services, the laptop, in addition to those other resources. Did I leave anything out, Dr. Avery? Any questions about that?
Great.
And then finally, you know, this was such it's so interesting. I couldn't wait until Kevin's budget report. I wanted to talk about this a little bit because we've had lots of conversations over the years about our budget, about the amount of our budget, about the midfoot payment, and I was under the impression that maybe the midfoot payment was beginning to go down a little bit. And for those of you who don't recall that situation, we have a group of students in Midfoot who attend school in Chester County and have been attending school in Chester County for many, many decades. There was some legislation passed that said that we would be required to pay, I think, a local funding contribution that Chester provides for every student who is from the Midfoot area who attends school in Chester. The board challenged that ruling and was unsuccessful. That was one of the first things that I recall when I arrived in 2012. Well, the amount of money that we are paying Midfoot is going up, even though the number of students is going down. Okay, and the number of students is going down quite dramatically, but the amount of money we paying Midfoot is going up. And so, to give you a snapshot, in 2014, the number of students for Midfoot who were attending Chester County schools was 158 students. And we had to pay them, because of that 158 students, $564,000. So we had to write a check to Chester for $564,000. And that ended up being about $3,571 per student. This year, the number of students was 113. Okay, and so we went from 158 in 2014 to 113 this year, but now we are paying Chester $659,000. Okay, And that equals to a allocation per student of $5,835. So the local allocation for Chester has gone up over $2,000. And as the local allocation for Chester goes up, the amount of money that we pay is based on their local contribution. In addition to the number of students on Midford that attend school in Chester. So when you look at the budget and you say, well, why is the amount of money we're paying in Chester still going up? I thought the number of students were going down. The number of students are going down, but the local allocation in Chester is going up. Therefore, the amount of money that we are paying is going up. And even though the number of students is going down, almost 40 students, somewhere in that ballpark, the amount of money that we're paying has gone up almost $100,000.
But the point is that the decrease, what was the reason for that? Did they move away? Did they come here? Did they graduate?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Pastor Jackson. I suspect it could be a combination of a couple of things. Number one, there may not be as many school-age children in the Midford area. It could be a combination of some students who are from Midford who may go to school in Fairfield County right now. It would be hard to say specifically what it is, but I am almost sure it's a combination of several factors. And we track those numbers pretty closely. And so when Chester sends us a list of Midford students, our staff goes through the list to verify that we are obligated to provide funding for those students.
This is Jackson talking. I don't like it. I never have liked it. And there's nothing I can do about it. Well, I can work on it. I don't like it.
Well, I think, because this happened so many years ago, sometimes we forget about the check that we have to write to Chester every year.
And I'm a tennis coordinator. I found out about it.
And obviously, when you were tennis coordinator, Pastor Jackson, the check you were writing was about $20,000, I think, something in that ballpark.
Yeah, but yeah, they were ready to secede from the county if you mess with them.
So I felt this deserved at least a little dialogue, because as you review the budget, and that's one thing that Mr. Robinson indicated in his budget report, that those numbers have been going up. I want you to understand that they're going up, not because the number of students is going down, it's just the local application. And the difficult thing about this ruling is, as long as Chester increases their local allocation, we have to pay more. So, how much we pay contingent on Fairfield is totally contingent on Chester. Am I accurate there, Ms. Robinson? Yeah. So as long as Chester's local contribution goes up, we have to pay more in Fairfield. Any questions?
Will we ever get out of it? That's my question.
That's a good question. Obviously the district challenged the ruling back in 2012, and it was unsuccessful. I would probably say, unless something happens and they close Great Falls High School, I don't necessarily see a basis for a new challenge. So, but that's my untrained legal mind, right? Making that judgment.
This is the only one in the state. That's right.
The only one I'm familiar with.
State.
Okay. COVID report, just to be very brief, COVID, we're still looking pretty good. Since our last meeting, I think we only had one student case
reported, Ms. Green. Ms. Green looked at me like, only one? Yeah, we only had one student case reported.
That's great.
I think we had no staff cases reported. And so we are continuing to do pretty good relative to COVID-19. So no need for any alarm. But we'll continue to monitor those numbers. And in the event that things change, then we will make some adjustments to our protocol. But right now, we don't see a need to make any adjustments. Right? And so here you see isolation student cases from April 17th, April 1st, only one case at Fairfield Central High School. Next slide. And during the same time period, no reported cases of staff during that time. So we are in a good place relative. Any questions about that? All right. That's all I have, Kevin.
He just did.
No, I missed that. I apologize. Yeah, and the final item is I would ask the general to approve overnight field trip request for the Beautiful Top Club. We'll be traveling to Atlanta, Georgia this year. We will visit the World of Hope, the Martin Luther King Jr. Museum, and what's the final museum? It's called the African American History Museum.
Human rights.
What's it called?
The Civil and Human Rights.
So, okay, Civil and Human Rights Museum. So, part of our goal to ensure that all of our young are well-read, well-dressed, well-traveled, well-balanced, and well-spoken. Well-traveled thing. So, looking forward to taking the young men out of town. That's always a very interesting experience. Because I tell people I'm the first person on the bus. And so I get to see it all firsthand. But permission slips went out today. The reason I couldn't tell you specifically how many, because I don't know how many permission slips will come back. You send out about 40, then you will get in. You'll see how many folks in the rest of this day. But I can assure you, we will have some with bells and whistles on. I'm looking forward to getting them. So I have bells and whistles on too. I tell people down there is that when you take young boys out of town and you stay in a hotel, you gotta count on every time you go someplace. It's some work. It's a stress. You think you vacation, you're not vacation. The whole time, the time you get on that bus and the time you get back, you got what's going on in the hotel room. When you going, come back here. I mean, it is, you are working the whole time. So, working as a chaperone for any kind of overnight trip with young people is work. So all the folks out there who think, it's not that bad, come on and go with us sometime. It's a work. Let me do that. I remember Pastor Jackson when I was a basketball coach, and we would go out of town, we used to put tape on the door. And I tell them, I say, well, man, take me off that door. There's gonna be some problems the next week. If you leave out this door, and I put this tape on this door. We don't do that now. It's a new trick I hadn't thought of yet. It's definitely some work when you get young people. But you enjoy it. I mean, I say it in all seriousness. They enjoy the opportunity. Their parents appreciate it, and it provides that word Ms. Green we call exposure, which is vitally important.
Can we get a motion?
Chair, I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the overnight state field trip for the Griffin Bowtie Club in Atlanta, Georgia on May 12th through 13, 2023. This is an annual end of the year field study fund.
Second such motion.
Motion by Ms. Harrison, second by Dr. Harris. To set the superintendent recommendation to approve the overnight out-of-state field trip to the Griffin Bowtie Hotel, excuse me. To Atlanta, Georgia. All in favor, show.
Can I just say something? Dr. Green, I just want to commend you on the work that you do with the Bowtie Club. We don't have a lot of male positive role models, and you are an example of one. And I truly appreciate that. I have parents talking about how they, want their child to be son to be a part of it. Even though you can't raise their child, but they do need somebody positive that they can look forward to. And I just want to commend you on that because it is a great thing you are doing for our young men because we are losing a lot of them.
Appreciate that, Bob.
Superintendent recommends that the board approve the overnight out-of-state field trip for the Griffin Bowtie Club to Atlanta, Georgia, on May 12th and 13th. All in favor, show by raising of the right hand. All right, that'll be 7. Mr. Stover.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This evening for your approval, beginning with HR item 1, professional certified resignations and terminations. The superintendent recommends the board approve certified educator resignations and terminations to be effective at the conclusion of the 2022-23 academic year. This is presented in Exhibit 1.
Get a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the superintendent's recommendation, approve certified educator resignation termination to be effective at the conclusion of the 22-23 academic year, Exhibit 1.
Chair, I second.
Motion made by Ms. Harrison, second by Pastor Jackson, to set the superintendent recommendation to approve certified educator resignation termination effectively at the end of conclusion of the 22-23 academic year. Exhibit 1. All in favor, show by raising of the right hand. 7.
Under item 2, the superintendent recommends the board approve the professional certified educators for academic year 2023-24. This is presented in Exhibit 2.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, she got it. Never mind, she got it.
I recommended the board approve the certified educators for the academic school year of 23-24 as in Exhibit 2.
Chair, I second.
Motion made by Ms. Green, second by Pastor Jackson, to accept the superintendent's recommendation. The board approved the certified educator for academic year 23-24. Exhibit 2. All in favor, show by the raising of the right hand.
Thank you.
Prior to finance.
Good evening. Under Finance and Operations, the first item that we have for your information and review is the March 2023 Finance Report. And really, nothing's really changed. Everything's been on trend since the last report. We're still on track to have a surplus around, I'd say around $250,000, $300,000. So if there are any questions on finance.
So this is going to be a surplus.
Yes, sir. That's the projection.
Okay.
Second item under Finance and Operations is a facility usage request for Fairfield, Salcahatchee. And the superintendent recommends the board review the request for waiver of fees for Fairfield, Salcahatchee for the usage of Fairfield Elementary School on July 8th through 15th, 2023. there's information, on the, usage in Fort Dodge.
Let's go ahead and make a motion and then
Mr. Chair,
yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendations or review the request of waiver fees for Fairfield Second Hatchery for the usage of Fairfield Elementary School on July 8th through 15th, 2023.
Second this motion.
Motion made by Harrison, second by Dr. Harris, accept the superintendent recommendation, review the request, waiver of fees for Fairfield Second Hatchery, the uses of the Fairfield Elementary School on July the 8th through 15th. 2023. Questions? Yes, sir.
I noticed that it said, that, the school is unable to approve the request, and that we cannot mandate that kitchen staff work his camp. So what's the bottom line? Where are we on that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Dr. Jackson, and that's something that I was going to mention. You know, obviously, when these kinds of requests come in with a request for personnel, we will appeal the personnel to see if someone is available. Now, we're optimistic that we'll be able to find some people to accommodate the request. But I always want to make it known that this is not a guarantee that we will. Okay, and so I'm hopeful, optimistic that we will be able to find some kitchen staff. We will be able to find some security personnel, help between. But we can't mandate, particularly who are not in contract, to work these kinds of things.
But how do they get paid?
I mean, so when the board approves the board is agreeing to pay.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so the board, yeah, so USC South Hampton, the board is agreeing to pay them and not pass that cost on South Hampton.
that's what I want.
Yeah.
So Chair, is there any type of insurance for the facility or for our coverage while they're there for all that time?
You know, I think that they have to sign a waiver, saying that the district won't be held liable.
Okay.
But as we know, even when you sign that waiver, we can still be held liable. I mean, we ended up having a legal situation with another community group who used the facility, and there was an injury, and then we ended up being sued. So I would say, because the waiver's in there, am I right? Yeah. Even though that waiver is there, that does not preclude an attorney from still suing the district. So there is still some exposure.
Last one. Is this in lieu of them using the high school?
Yes, and so the high school, because of summer school and our earlier start, the high school was able to accommodate them this year. Still requesting for use of the high school shower facilities, even though they won't be there for the entire time. But I think at this point, they would sleep at the elementary school, but use the high school just for showers.
Chair. So Dr. Green, I understand about the waiver of fees, but they don't have any other funding that would like help pay for the custodians or the cafeteria workers or whatever. I mean, it's a good cause and I'm glad they come in here to do what they do. But I know they probably need several staff members to work. So they don't have any other funding that comes in to help them do that, or?
But my guess is no, Ms. Harris, and I'm not asked that question. This is the request. I assume that they utilize all their funding to purchase the building materials. And surprisingly, the young people who participate in this camp have to pay to participate in the camp. And so I think they use part of those resources to purchase the building material to renovate the homes itself.
So as I understand this, I want to be sure I understand this, that we're talking about them actually having two schools available, even though they're going to use one for sleeping and so forth, they're gonna use the other one for the showers and so forth, so that means 2 schools are gonna be in use by then.
Not the entire time, Pastor Jackson. So, they won't go to the high school. And Dr. Swiller and I spoke about this today. She may make it available for them to shower at the field house. But regardless of what facility they use, they won't go there until maybe after sometime in the evening. So, and because her facility was not available during the day. Okay, because she is still trying to get ready for the school year and couldn't make it available.
Because I'm sure that everybody has dotted all of their I's and crossed all the T's to make sure that security and everything is in place.
Well, one of the things, Doc, do we have showers? I want to make everybody aware. Do we have showers at the elementary school?
No.
That's one of the reasons they need to come up to whether it be, field house or the high school. The other thing is that, say that, before COVID, this is probably standard. We just showing it now since we had this new, that we approved the new. Right, uses. Okay, but 3 years ago, this is what 3 or 4 years ago, they came in, that's what they used to be. We're not adding anything else. They used it, the cafeteria workers work there, just standard. It's nothing new. It is a great cause.
Yes.
Say that, I would probably need to reiterate my motion. Superintendent recommends the board review the request of the waiver of the fees for the Fairfield second half year for the usage of the Fairfield Elementary School of the week of July the 8th through 15th, 2023. All in favor?
Question. It said the superintendent recommends the board review the request for waiver of fees. So is the board approving their request for the waiver of fees?
No, yeah, so they're casual.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I make a motion that we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the waiver of fees for second half year.
Just that. Motion made by Ms. Harrison and second by Pastor Jackson to approve superintendent recommendation to review the request and waiver of fees for the Fairfield second action uses of Fairfield Elementary Schools in the week July 8th to the 15th, 2023. All in favor show by the raising of the right hand. 17. Thank you. Okay, next.
Okay. Third item this evening of finance and operations is the first reading of the 23-24 budget. And this is an action item, and I do have a presentation, but the motion is the superintendent recommends the board approve the first reading of the 23-24 budget in the amount of $45,677,674, which includes no change in millage.
Good. The question was in the minutes. Go up. The minutes the same?
It is. It is, no change. And I can do the presentation and then do the motion, or y'all want to do a motion, call the question, man. Is it free? Okay. So I'll just hit the highlights of the budget and the difference between this year and the one we're proposing for next year. So this proposed budget is 45.7 million, which is 2.3 million higher than the budget we're operating from in this current year. One of the reasons on the good note is that we're projecting we'll have about $1.2 million more in local property tax revenue than we budgeted for in this current year. And based on current funding from the legislature, we're anticipating an additional approximately $800,000 total in state funding. One of the things that will help us to balance the budget this year is that we do have positions coming out of our federal ESSER funds. And we have a significant number of positions, and that will end at the end of 23-24. So next year is the last full year we have of the federal ESSER funds. And so after that, then we're going to have to look at having not just salaries, but other expenditures that are being paid out of the ESSER. Either they will have to be added back to the general fund, funded through another source, or reduced. And currently, we have about roughly $2 million planned to come out of the ESSER funds for next year. That's the same as this year. So that, along with other expenditures, is a significant amount that we have to plan for after 23-24. And we are proposing approximately $700,000 to come out of the fund balance for next year. This year, we plan for about $900,000 approximately. As I mentioned earlier, it looks like we have to take anything out of the fund balance. But next year, we're proposing about $700,000 come out of the fund balance so that the budget will be balanced. In order to help fund the budget, we did have to eliminate some of our position vacancies, staffing vacancies that we have. So no one is losing a job, but where we've had vacancies, we're eliminating some of those in order to reduce some of the expenditures, just based on the amount of revenue we have available. The budget does include the recently adopted classified administrative pay scale. It was adopted during the board meeting in March. It also includes a proposed $2,500 increase per teacher. And it includes an increase for our bus drivers as well, based on the current state legislative proposal. And the budget for next year still doesn't include the bonus amount, $5,000 for certified and $3,000 for our classified employees.
And so, Mr. Robinson, before you leave there are a couple of points that I want to make. Okay. First of all, the third item is that the budget includes a proposed $2,500 increase for each teacher for the current legislative teacher scale proposal. It's important to note that what is currently being debated is a $2,500 increase to the state minimum. Okay, it doesn't mean that every teacher across the state is getting $2,500. All right, and so the state is not going to fund a $2,500 increase for every teacher. With that said, I want people to know we are giving every teacher a $2,500 increase in Fairfield County, and that won't likely be fully funded by the state of South Carolina. Okay, and sometimes people get confused when they hear $2,500 to the state minimum and assume that means that there's a $2,500 increase for every teacher. And that means that what that means is if you below the state minimum, you got to bring it up to whatever the state minimum is, and then add $2,500 to it. If you're already above the state minimum, of which we are, then that means that you don't necessarily have to give $2,500, and they aren't giving you $2,500 for every teacher. But I want to just recognize this point that, and that's part of the reason that we don't anticipate receiving as much money from the state government as will be needed to fund that increase, because technically they are requiring us to give $2,500 every teacher. So they are giving us the money to give $2,500 every teacher, but we are giving $2,500 to every teacher, right? The other point I want to make is that there's probably some questions about Bus drivers, when we approved the last salary schedule increase, because I told you all that we would address bus drivers and teachers a little later on during the budgeting process, once the General Assembly kind of finished doing what they were doing. So we anticipate that bus drivers will receive about a 15% increase based on what's going to be approved by the state. And we anticipate that most of that will be funded by the state, but whatever isn't funded by the state, then we'll fund it locally. All right. But I think those 2 points, particularly the point about the teachers, I thought was very important that we mentioned that. Because what you will find is every teacher across the state of South Carolina is not going to get a $25 million increase, because that's not what the General Assembly is funding. But that's what we are doing here in Fairfield. Any questions about that? I mean, probably. Okay, I'll keep on.
I'm trying to give some clarity on that.
So this next slide is just a comparison of the amount of revenue, the categories that we budgeted in 2023 for this year and what we're budgeting for next year. So the first item that we have right here, the non-residential property tax revenue last year, we budgeted 26.7 million. This year, we're saying it's going to be about 27.9 million, which really is attributable to, as I said, just an increase in property tax value. Really will stay the same, primarily increase in the Dominion property. So because of that increase, we'll have an additional, projecting additional increase in revenue. The other significant line item where it says state residential reimbursement, that is the reimbursement that we get from the state from and I don't know how many remember Act 388, but at one time, homeowners used to pay taxes on the operations portions of school districts. Well, if you're a homeowner now, you no longer pay that. And so in order to make up for that funding, the state reimburses through a formula the amount of money that's been lost for what we're not receiving from taxpayers on residential properties. So last year, or this year rather, we had 3.4 million. And in the next year, they're saying we'll get about 3.7 million. So that's about additional $300,000. And then the next significant line is the state funding plan. Last year, there was a change to how we were funded. And under that plan for this current year, we budgeted about $6.5 million. This year, we're projected to get about $7.1 million, just based on the proposals that are coming in from the state so far. So those are the significant increases in our revenue for our budget. Just as previously mentioned, no change in the millage at all. And also, as I mentioned, the state residential reimbursements will go up to about $3.7 million. And then we also have other residential reimbursements of about $2 million, which is fairly constant every year that we get from homestead reimbursements and property tax relief. And the homestead reimbursements are just for the loss of tax revenue for tax relief that's provided to citizens over age 65. So those numbers will stay fairly constant. And I also mentioned you'll get additional money funding from the state. In our budget, one of the things, and this happened last year, is that in that funding, some of the money that we used to get for grants. So for example, next year, the state has proposed to take the funding that we currently get for nurses and PE teachers, and there's one other category, career specialists. We used to get that in a separate pot. So now they're rolling that money up into the general state funding, which means we'll no longer have a separate pot. So a part of that $600,000 is that funding that they're kind of rolling up. They're saying you can use it however you want to use it. But of course, we have some salaries that were tied to that money. So that means we don't really have an option to do something differently with it. So part of the increase that we're receiving is really not an increase. That is shifting it to our general fund and saying we can use it however we want. But of course, the money, at least the money that's obligated currently for salaries, will be obligated again next year for salaries.
And Mr. Robinson, let me expand on that a little bit, because, we've heard a lot of conversation at General Assembly about creating flexibility. But what flexibility basically means is that we are rolling several accounts up into one and telling the district you can do what you want to do with money. But you can only spend $1 once, okay? And so we can't spend it on nurses and spend it on salary. You follow me? We can't spend it on GT and spend it on salary. I mean, so when they say, well, districts are getting the money to provide these increases, well, that's assuming that you cut something else, okay? And so districts have never asked for this flexibility. It's important to note that all the flexibility they're talking about, I've not met a superintendent yet who says we need more flexibility. All right. I mean, we were good with the flexibility that we had. Right now, what's happening is it's being presented as we have more revenue than we actually have because of this flexibility. Okay.
We kind of talked about those slides. So I'm going to go to this one. There's just a chart that shows the categories of expenditures and what we budgeted for in the current year versus what we're budgeting for next year. And really the most significant category is the first one where we have salaries and benefits. In this current year, we've got 35.9 million budgeted for salaries and benefits. Next year, we're budgeting 38 million, which is an increase of approximately $2 billion. As I mentioned earlier, really the major change and why we have that's due to the teacher increase that we're proposing, the increase for the bus drivers and the increase for the classified and administrative personnel based on the proposal that was approved last month. We also have then about a 1% increase in retirement that the district will have to pay, as well as an increase of about 2% in health insurance. So when you add all of that up, plus as I mentioned, the salaries that we had for some of the nurses and career specialists that were in a separate state funding that we now have to roll back into the general fund, that gives us that increase of about $2 million. And I think the important thing to note, as I mentioned earlier, we did reduce some of the vacancies that we had in the budget. So that number is just really a reflection of some salary increases on the scales and increases in the benefits costs that we as a district have to pay. And so again, that's just basically just a summary of what I just mentioned in terms of why the salaries and benefits are going up. And those are just some of the other categories. We really don't have a lot of changes to the other categories. Our property and casualty insurance is increasing. That number has been typically under budget for many years, and really I haven't changed the budget much. But just through the years, that number is now at a point where we're going to have to increase it. And then we have some increase in terms of just supplies and materials. We'll probably have an increase due to the interest rate increases in the amount we pay for our TAN. And as we've already talked about the Midford payment, that amount was still less than what we budgeted for this current year, what we actually paid. And it did not move a lot from the previous year. So right now we aren't projecting much of an increase to Chester, but the trend has been going up, even though the number of students has been going down. So the summary is that the budget, the revenue, $45,677,674 does equal the requested expenditures We did have to use approximately $700,000 to balance that budget that we're proposing to take out of the fund balance. As I mentioned earlier, last year, we added money to the fund balance, and we're anticipating adding money to the fund balance again this year. And there is no millage increase in the requested budget. So the district is requesting first reading approval of the budget amount of $45,677,674, which includes a millage of 203.1, which is no change from the previous year.
A couple other points I'd like to add, Mr. Robinson. First of all, if you notice in the slides Mr. Robinson shared with you, the retention bonuses are still included. And there was some question as to rather, because of the new salary schedule that was approved, were we eliminating the retention bonuses? So I'm not quite sure who put that rumor out, but apparently somebody put it out, Ms. Harrison. But I just want to dispel that. The retention bonuses are still included. And Pastor Jackson, I find it so interesting. Almost every time I read an article about what a district is doing to try and retain teachers, I see something about retention. And all the questions about, were we doing something that was inappropriate? Was it wise? And it's interesting how many people are following what we are doing in Fairfield County. And when we did this several years ago, people were kind of shocked by it. But I've seen some districts who have made a proposal to do exactly the same thing that we're doing, to the exact figure that we're doing in Fairfield County. And so I'd like to thank the board for having a foresight to be creative, forward thinking about doing some things to try and incentivize people to come and stay in the profession. Very often people say, well, who else is doing it? Well, somebody has to be first to do it. And so, some people establish trends, some people follow trends. So, but somebody has to establish it. So I'd like to thank the board for the foresight to do that. With that said, also, there's one additional adjustment to the budget that we want to just acknowledge publicly as well. As we've talked about a new salary schedule that has been approved and what we're doing with teachers. And appreciation, obviously, for what the board has done, and obviously, you all, surely put in much time that you're compensated for. There is a nominal increase also in the budget to the board stipend, which has a total cost of about $2,400. I think about $2,400 total for board stipend, and so we wanted to share that with them as well. And so I'll turn it over to whoever wants to speak to first reading.
Can I get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the first reading of the 23-24 budget in the amount of $45,677,674, includes no change in millage.
Chair, second. Motion made by Ms. Harrison, seconded by Pastor Jackson, to accept the superintendent recommendation. We recommend to approve the first reading of the 2023-2024 budget, the amount of $45,677,674, which includes no change in millage. We have any questions? All in favor, show by raising the right hand. That would be 7. Thank you. I just want to, few things that we have going on I think we read this right. We got the days having something we call it Saturday, May 6th, between 10 and 3:30 p.m. They're having what's Brown? We're having our first what do we call this?
A dance competition.
Dance. Right. You want everybody support the elite. They come out event. They're playing. They playing to tack it out. Take it out. So that's as we know our board clerk and executive assistant, Mrs. Brown. She works beautiful with these young ladies, and so let's come out and support the elite ladies on. That would be May 6th. That's a Saturday, and it starts at 10 o'clock. Monday.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
I'll say 10 o'clock. That's it. Go ahead.
First of all, let me make a correction. I misspoke when I was talking about the increase to board stipend. That's a total cost of $16,800. Am I right? Yeah, that's how I misspoke. So that's a total cost of $16,800 for the year relative to the budget. And also I failed to mention that it is Administrators Professionals Week. And so we'd like to acknowledge our administrative professionals who are part of the Fairfield County School District family. You are out and about in our respective facilities. Please give a shout out to our administrative professionals who are very often the first people that the public interacts with. As I tell folks that whether they arrive to be in good mood or bad mood, it may be contingent. Who introduced and who answered the phone, who welcomed them, or whatever that interaction was. So we value the importance of the job that they do. Thank you, Chairman.
And I was just finishing up. If you have any other announcements, you have any?
Mr. Chair,
What's that?
I want to give a shout out to the high school career day. I was actually invited over there. I think each one of us probably did 4 sessions, which most of the people told me I had more people in my session. I had boys and girls, and they talked about owning your own business. Not only did we talk about owning your own business, we talked about peer pressure. We talked about, how you carry yourself as young ladies and men. I mean, it was just phenomenal. Those kids, we were engaged. I mean, we was past the time when the bell rang, we still talking. So I just want to give a shout out to the staff over there for putting on that career day. And also me and Ms. Green was able to go down to the day at the Capitol, and we watched Mike Fanning debate on the floor. He was a little discouraged, but when he looked up and saw us sitting in the gallery, he was happy. We talked about the educational funding bill that's on the floor now in the House, and it looked like it's gonna pass. I called Dr. Green about it because it's no accountability. They don't have to be enrolled in a school. They can take a class in Arizona. They already found that they got $6,000, and the mother bought a refrigerator, and she said my child taking a cooking class on it. So no accountability for the money. And Dr. Green said, well, he suspects there's gonna be more fraud than that. We had Wendy Burley and Rita Austin spoke to us. And one of the key points they made is that people are sitting on these boards and they don't really know what's in these packages. They don't read them. They don't know what they voting on. They pulled out discrimination clause. They pulled out that they don't have to be tested. It was in there, but they didn't pull it out now. But they want the money, but they don't have to do what our kids have to do. And I don't think that's fair, but it looks like it's gonna pass. And I guess we just have to deal with it. And I guess we'll have a lot of fraud in the process of doing it. Also, Friday, the School Board Association contacted me. They must know I get up early because they called me before 7 o'clock. They wanted to come out to my job and talk to me about what I felt about the day at the Capitol. And Angela came out. Matter of fact, she probably stayed about the whole day with me. She got me Miss Betty, Dr. Green, and Miss Betty shared with all my clients. They talk very highly of me, and I appreciate that. We also went to lunch. We just had a grand time talking about what happened. She's actually doing a podcast, so she just wanted to reach some people that she knew that had experience with their capital, and I happened to be one of them. I gave it how I felt about it. I'm not thrilled with what they're doing down there. And I did get to, me and Ms. Green did get to go see Frederick O'Hara, the middle school dance showcase. It was amazing. I mean, those kids danced and danced and danced. I actually thought they was professional dancers, not middle school dancers. And I'm a little jealous because he's supposed to be teaching me how to dance, but he ain't gotten around to it yet. We went to the orchestra concert last night, and honestly, I didn't know that those first year students. I mean, they played excellent. I enjoyed that. And I have 2 events that's coming up. The Stop the Violence, which Dr. Green is on our panelist. I'm gonna lead these squads with Javon, she can send them out. The Stop the Violence is May 20th. It's on a Saturday. It begins at 9, ends at 12. It's gonna be at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Ridgeway. And the other one is the Juneteenth. I am one of the contacts on there. It's June 17th. If you want to participate in it, that's fine. We're going to the Fairfield Alumni School where we're gonna have food giveaways. Everything is gonna be free. This is a positive group. I'm about being positive in the community. I'm about helping people. And this group that we're formed is about being positive. And we're doing positive things. And actually, I had several calls today wanting to be a part of this from over there in Blair, from Ridgeway, even from Columbia. And I appreciate all the response that we have gotten about this parade. I'm done with that, but I want to give a shout out to my grandson. I am a proud grandmother. My grandson will be going to Berkeley College for 12 days in California for a leadership program, which he was the only one that got selected to go. So I'm very proud of him. And this weekend, he will be running track at Penn State and Pittsburgh. He'll be in Penn State, and he said, "Grandma, I won't be here for your birthday, but I'm gonna run for you." So I appreciate him, and I am proud of him and the things that he's doing and the young man that he's becoming.
Anybody else?
Sir Chair, I would like to also acknowledge Frederico's dance program he had. It was phenomenal. And Ms. Wise has worked so hard with our orchestra, and she starts early. And if she could get down to that elementary level and bring them up, by the time they get out of high school, they would be professional, whatever, cellist or flute, whatever instrument. The instrument selection itself was amazing. I know, as we say, exposure is so important. A lot of those children would have never selected any of those instruments if not introduced to them at an early age. She's doing a great job, and I had a great time. We had a good time with the one last night. And I'm sorry we're missing tonight. If we can get out of here, we'll go.
Okay, but got anything else? I joined the action, everyone, if you can make it out. We're gonna have this is gonna be our first time this year to have our intergovernment meeting. It's hosted by the town of Ridgeway. That will be on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, April the 26th at 6 o'clock. And we all got to work together. So they're hosting it and asking everyone we can come to Ridgeway for an intergovernment meeting. We got members of the town council, members of the town of Winsboro, members of the Ridgeway Town Council, members of the Jenkinsville Town Council, members of the Fairfield School Board, Senator Mike Fanning, Representative Annie McDaniels. I guess they sent this out to the Voice and the Country Chronicles. Okay, so it's everyone, if they can make it, please come out to that. And again, that's it again. Any more announcements? Ms. Brown?
One thing, board members, if you check your email today, I sent you a link. If you click on that link, it will tell you all the dates in the month of May that events are happening in the district. All those events that Dr. was talking about. So I sent that to you today, and as they update, it will come to that link. So at any time you click on it, you'll be able to see all the dates. And
It'll have time on, some of them don't have a time on.
I haven't checked. They have planned.
It don't really have like what days, but you know what I'm saying, if you can click on it, I mean, I knew some of them because some of the kids had invited me. And also I won't be able to be at the dance thing, my baby girl will be graduating that day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, can we get a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Harrison, second by Dr. Ms. Green. All in favor, show by the raise of the right hand. Meeting is adjourned.
Devon, you want me to put that on your thing?